Recognizing the MLA from Cowichan Valley.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This motion was made necessary by some members of this House choosing to spread misinformation about the residential school systems and about Canada's treatment of Indigenous peoples. It's really sad that I'm having to get up and speak about this, but also just recognizing, and having in this space, in this House, and in my speeches, bringing forward my mother's story, the elders that I sat with, the elders that are still here, and the elders that have already passed. And those voices that I'm bringing here into this space are the ones that are now gone. I'm the one to be able to bring these messages forward. I'm the one to be strong enough to bring this forward. Just like other people that are standing up. I raise my hands to the elder of the House here. She's been such an inspiration, such a strong woman. And, when I think of my mom, of how she suffered. The misinformation that's being spread is harming. Not only is this being spread in this House, but it's being spread in my community and across BC. The elders of the past, the elders that are still here, were hurt by what they've heard, what they've witnessed, and what they felt. Indigenous women, men, boys, girls, are more likely to be victims of violence or to go missing in their lifetimes, including in my riding in the Cowichan Valley, where many families were lost, who've lost their loved ones, and they still have unsolved cases today. It will take all levels of government to have a role to play in addressing these issues that is affecting thousands of Indigenous families and communities across Canada. I send strength and solidarity to all the survivors of this violence and their families on this day. I've stood at rallies where they've brought recognition of wanting to get answers about their missing loved ones, their murdered mother, and the pain and the sorrow of having unanswered questions. Reconciliation is an imperative in embedding in law and requires us to work together to find a path towards that forward that works for everyone. Far too long, neighbors, communities have been divided, fueled by court battles and hurtful misinformation. Reconciliation is ongoing and complex work, and we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to do better and to be better. My grandson shared a story, he was hearing some things in school, and he just looked at me and said, "Grandy, it has to start at home." So, everybody has to go back to their communities and do their best in trying to work towards a better relationship. Reconciliation means so many different things to so many different people. But for me, it's the move towards what we really need to do here. The work that I have to continue on in this house. The elders were very strong, and they were always talking about, you know, what they had gone through. The stories about their hurt and their pain of not even being able to go into a grocery store downtown. And I shared that with my spouse, you know. There was a sign in the Odin Theater in Duncan that, you know, said that the First Nations sat upstairs. The Indigenous people just sat upstairs, and the non-Indigenous people sat downstairs. And he couldn't believe it. And I said, yeah, it was there. You know, the same thing with my mom carrying around a blue card for her to be able to get into the old Eaton's Center that we had in Duncan. I just mentioned that to someone the other day, that my office is in the old Eaton's building, and she said, whoa, you're in the Eaton's building. And yeah, so it was just one of those things where our neighbor, because my mom married a non-First Nations, she received this blue card that gave her the right to go shopping in the store. She had to go with her because she would be stopped. She's carrying a blue card to say she's disenfranchised as an Indian. She looks like an Indian. And again, the word Indian. You know, when the colonizers landed, they thought they landed in India. That's how we became Indians, by the way. But I laugh about it, but it's not funny. But I think that's just where, you know, I don't know. I said to somebody the other day, we've been called Indians, Indigenous, Aboriginal, First Nations, you know, so I don't know, it changes, right? But all we really want and all we're looking forward to is being able to be included, not to be looked at sideways when we walked into places, not to be followed around thinking that we're going to steal stuff out of the store. This still happens today in Duncan. I hear people sharing stories with me. I see it on Facebook. You know, someone's been followed at Superstore or in a grocery store somewhere else, you know, and it's just sad to hear, but it still happens today. People are shocked when I tell people about it, but it still happens. Reconciliation requires recognitions of the rights and the acknowledgement of the wrongs of the past, knowing of the history and working together and upholding Indigenous rights. I was at the Yacht Club last year when they were celebrating 99 years. I've been invited to the 100th. And as I was sitting there, one of the fellows said, you know, I'm really sorry for my fellow friends here. Some of them don't believe, you know, and I said, well, I'm not here to come and take your house from you. It's about correcting a wrong and being able to belong in our communities that we live in, being treated like a human being. Because the Indian Act actually has, it says that we're not human. That's weird. Like, I just think it's so outrageous that it's still there. And there's still old bylaws and stuff within municipalities that still have these weird things that have to be looked at and brought forward. And then we hear from the cries from the community that it's going to cost a lot of money for us to hire a consultant to look at all of these, to make sure that we're doing these things right. But it is going to take money to try to fix the wrongs of yesterday. And people are going to be scared of change. And I think that, you know, the change is scary. I'm scared of change. I don't like anything to change, that's for sure. Ask my husband, he'll tell you. But I think, you know, you don't have to be afraid. We do have to start doing things differently. And that's what we owe British Columbians, to work together and to come up with a way forward. I had some, you know, like, it's unfortunate in my community that this has bubbled up to the surface of this, you know, racial comments of wanting to change land back to what it used to be before. It's very hurtful to hear these comments from people in my community that continue to say that we didn't consult, we didn't do anything, blah, 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 all of the stuff. Am I allowed to say blah, 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 honorable speaker? Anyways, I did. And it's been many, many, many years of work. I'm gonna say maybe 10 years that I heard that this piece of property was going to be changed into something wonderful. And, you know, if one of the members, any members here sell their piece of property, you've sold it. It's not yours anymore, right? You don't have any control over that piece of property anymore. So, you know, you sell your property, like my husband did in his old house, and people come and cut all the trees down. He's upset about it. He can't do anything about it. The same thing here. Same thing in the Cowichan Valley. That it's that piece of property, because you wouldn't want someone to come along and say, you know, this is what we want you to do with your piece of property. You turn around and go, oh, what are you talking about? I bought this right out, and I can do whatever I want with it, right? So again, it's misinformation bubbling to the surface of this hatred that just keeps building. And all we really want to do is grow our own food. It's food sovereignty. That's what it is. Together we must stand up to the things that drive us apart. The anti-Indigenous racism, residential school denialism, the anti-Indigenous stereotypes. We need to work together with the First Nations and local communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. We can follow a path for a stronger BC. And as I shared at North Cowichan when I was a counselor, this is really scary. It's scary for me. Scary for me. We're going to learn together. We're going to start doing things differently. Is it going to be perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect. Are we going to fall down? Yes, we will fall down. Will we make mistakes? Yes, I will even make mistakes. I'm scared. Those elders of the day, they're really mean, I tell you. If I sit you in front of one of them, whew, you know, they'll tell you what's what. But they're coming from a place of fighting for their life, fighting for their rights, and fighting for who they are. For me, so I can stand here and have a voice. So I can have the courage to be able to be speaking to the rafters, like my voice reaching the rafters, and have that right. It's really hard to believe in 2025 that we're still talking about this and people deny the experience of Indigenous children. But here we are. For over 150 years, the residential school systems operated as a systemic, government-sponsored attempt to destroy our Aboriginal culture, language, and to assimilate Aboriginal peoples so that they no longer exist as distinct people. This intent was cultural genocide. This is from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Someone interviewed me and asked me about, you know, how did you react to recreating the village? And I really didn't think that it was going to affect me that much, but it did. I broke down and started crying. I said, I seen my mom. I took her to counseling. She had this bottle that she just twisted the cap on and shoved way down hard, and she did not want to open it. We went to the counseling and sat down, and the fellow said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "I don't know. My daughter asked me to come here." So that was it. She just could not take that bottle out and open it because the pain was so hard. It was too hard for her to relive. When we seen that Truth and Reconciliation Commission come through town, we lost so many members that went and shared their story. Because when you share that, it's releasing something, but also it's bringing back that ugliness that they lived, and they were reliving those moments. There were so many suicides. There were violent fights with families because of these things happening, because of what they had brought forward. And I've gone through 20 years of counseling. It's really tough work to unravel all of that stuff that you're carrying around, and you know, you've learned from your parents. I know other people have. It's probably not as bad as what I have, but anyways, it's just, but my mom and my dad, it's just the way of that era of what they had taught me. And so anyways, it's a lot of work to release that also. Even today, just speaking about what I'm doing right now, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be really heavy. You know, but I know our government's going to continue to protect the Charter and Constitution rights of Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples as well, alike. I would encourage all members of this House to do the same. I went off my speaking notes, Honorable Speaker. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was that Kuper Island, which is across Chemainus where I live, was one of the first 2 residential schools that across the country that even started. It was known as Canada's Alcatraz. So Beverly and Patricia Joseph drowned trying to escape this place. And then several children drowned between the 1889 to 1975. 1975, let that sink in for a minute. I was 5 years old. There were still kids trying to swim and get away from that place. You know, I listened to the elders from Kuper. Now it's called Penelakut because Kuper is an old colonial name. It's called Penelakut Island, and I know I'm saying it wrong. I apologize. I have trouble with names. I inherited it from my dad. Pronunciations. But they shared about being forced over to this island. They were taken on the bus, as Joan had Speaker, as the member had mentioned earlier. They thought they were going to the movies. So they were all told they're going to the movies. How exciting. All these kids are getting into the bus and they're going to the movies. As they're on the ferry going across to Penelakut, Cooper Island, they turned back and their villages were being burnt down, destroyed. They never went back to that home where they knew where home was. And just other things that happened along that way, all their rights were taken, their hair were cut. In our culture, when you cut your hair, it means both parents are dead. You're an orphan now. That's what that meant. So they were quite devastated seeing this, village burn down, their village, going over to this residential school, and having their hair cut. So you're just a child. You don't know what's going on. So you just believe the adults in the room about what's happening. We hear from Indigenous members in our communities every day about concerns that they have about the increased presence of the residential school denialism. The denialism has a very real impact on our communities. Many survivors are still struggling with mental and physical health issues stemming from their time at residential schools. When comments emerged, suggesting that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was lying, the victims are the witnesses who endured these painful memories, and to provide their testimonies, it was very hurtful. And, I'm losing track again here, sorry. I just hope that members will take this opportunity to get behind this motion and uphold the reality of what happened in our country. And, it's simple to, this is unacceptable. We owe this to our community. We owe this to the elders that went through that pain and trauma. This is not a partisan issue. The courts have long upheld the affirmation of the existence of Indigenous rights and titles. Not only do these rights exist, but we know British Columbia is better off when we work in partnership with Indigenous peoples. And, I've heard so many things, Honorable Speaker, where we need to be included in those conversations going forward. It is complicated. If you look at just your families, like if you have a small family or a large family, my sister has a different idea of how she wants to approach an issue. I have a different idea. We have five years difference. Oh, I'm not going to say how old she is because she's going to give me heck. She is my older sister, though. But, my aunt came to me and said, you guys are, have to work through this, and I'm upset and she's upset. And it's just like that. We have so many nations. We have over 200 nations in BC. And Honorable Speaker, sorry. It is going to take a long time to unravel the mess that we have collectively got ourselves into, because we're part of that. We're part of that entangled mess, right? Our people are just trying to get out of that. They just want to get, get on, like, and we do want to be, and we are, but contributing people in our society. We have jobs, we buy houses, we buy cars, we pay taxes. We do all of these things. We don't get anything for free. When people say that we get things for free, oh my gosh. Live it Dan the Elder, I would not want to, by the way. How painful that, it was a lot of pain and suffering to get to where we are today. And it's a tragic chapter in our Canadian history. And I know, like I said, my dad and my mom, my dad's Chinese, so there was some racism happening there too. And within our municipalities, within our communities, there are these policies that we need to change. And also, I see the time, looking at the time, Honorable Speaker. I do recognize that the elders say that we can't do things really quickly because we can, stumble and fall on our face, that those are the things that they said. But we can take one step at a time to correct the wrongs of yesterday. And we should do this together, Honorable Speaker. And this isn't saying that we think the other person's wrong about doing this. We're all in this together, and we all need to fix this together. It's not about blame, it's not about shame for me, I'm just saying. This is about looking at what we have been moving towards, what we have already started, and not, taking 20 steps back when we've already took 10 steps forward. I have hope, and I shared with my elder, we have a right, we have this right in this house to share our voice, share our truth, the truth that we know. And that's for everyone, and everybody's going to benefit. It's not just an Indigenous thing. It's an everybody's thing. So I just wanted to share that because I think my spouse says this to me all the time. You start a store and you go off into another one. Going back to the yacht club, I said, please share with your friends. I'm not here to fight with them. I'm here to fight with the policies and those procedures that tied our hands and tied our people back. We just want to move forward. We want to live, and we just want the freedom to do it. I'm going to leave it at that, Honorable Speaker, because I probably could go on some more, but I will not. But I just wanted to share a little bit more history about, what we've gone through. Thank you.